Hey guys, Level Cap here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the RSC 1917. This is the new medic unlock that you get with the They Shall Not Pass DLC. There's two variations of this weapon. You have the factory model, which is what I'm using here in this clip, and then we also have the optical model that has a small little red dot style sight available for it. To unlock the factory model, you need to get 50 revives, and then you also need to get 50 kills with the 1907 sweeper. Now, like a few of the other weapons in this DLC, the RSC seems like it's trying to break sort of the traditional medic rifle mold, if you will. This gun does 53 maximum damage, which means you can two-shot body shot somebody at up to 44 meters away. Every other medic rifle in the game requires at least 3 body shots to take somebody down, so this is the least amount of shots required to kill somebody. Of course, it does balance out with having the slowest rate of fire of any of the medic rifles at 163 rounds per minute. It's also limited to a 5-round magazine plus 1 bullet in the chamber. It's got an interesting little reload animation where you sort of put a clip in the bottom of the weapon with a sort of hatch that opens up. Kind of a cool looking reload animation, not particularly fast. 2.7 seconds is the fast reload and 3.3 seconds is the long reload. Also, if you're reloading while you're empty, you've only got 5 rounds instead of 6, which can actually make a pretty big difference. When you're dealing with the single digits here, 1 extra round can make or break an engagement. Now, the damage output per magazine isn't particularly impressive, provided that you perfectly shot all 6 body shots in a row at under 44 meters away. You could down 3 enemies per magazine. Not the most impressive damage output in the game, not necessarily the worst either. Now, sadly, you would think that DICE would have balanced this weapon to have a higher damage per second because of the slow rate of fire. They might have tweaked it to try and be a weapon that could out-damage some of the other medic rifles out there, but it's actually got the lowest damage per second out of any other medic rifle in the game. So not only is it a slow-firing, difficult to use weapon with a very limited ammo capacity, but it's also not really capable of putting out that much damage per second. Oddly enough, though, it has the second fastest time to kill of any of the medic rifles in under 44 meters, being beat out by the auto-loading 8.35, which has a slightly faster time to kill because of its incredibly fast rate of fire. However, its time to kill only works if you hit both of your first shots. That's where you get the benefit, because the transition in between each shot is so long that you only get the benefit because you don't have a transition with your first shot. Every gun can fire a shot as fast as you can press the mouse button or pull the trigger on your controller. It's the follow-up shot that has the big delay. So if you miss your follow-up shot, your second shot with this weapon, and you don't get the kill, then all of a sudden the time to kill becomes atrocious. So you have very little leeway with this weapon, from it being moderately effective to completely ineffective. The optical variant of this weapon also loses out a lot because it has more recoil than the iron sights variant, and it makes it hard to get your maximum rate of fire. Luckily, the iron sights on this gun aren't particularly bad. However, if you are receiving return fire, say you take a shot while you're in the middle of a firefight and it jostles your screen, it's going to be pretty hard to locate and fire back accurately with this weapon. And if you're suppressed, forget it. It's just far too less ammo to deal with suppression during an engagement. So you really do have to rely on sort of engaging your opponent before they start returning fire on you. And you might have just noticed there that I actually 3-shotted an enemy in close quarter combat. That's because I accidentally winged like his forearm or something like that, and it just didn't do enough damage to take him down in 2 shots. And so that's another pretty big negative to this weapon, is that it's only doing 53 max damage. So if you start to hit one of the low multiplier areas of their body, you might end up having to 3-shot in close quarters anyway. I think there's quite a few things DICE could do to try and improve the performance of this weapon. I really like that they're thinking outside the box with this rifle, but in my opinion, they just have gone a little bit too far to make this gun barely acceptable in terms of performance. And in my opinion, it's something that I don't think too many people will be using. It does have that sort of high skill feel to it, but it just doesn't have the damage per second or the stats to really back it up in any sort of relevant way. I think there's a few routes they could take to try and make this weapon a little bit less painful to use. One of them would just be better recoil recovery, especially for the optical variant of this rifle. And because this gun is so reliant on pretty much landing every shot you take and not missing anything, hence the sort of high skill requirement of this gun, you may as well have the actual physical statistical accuracy to back it up. So better recoil recovery for this weapon and less bullet spread. Also, it would be nice if they messed around with the body part damage multipliers for this gun. I know they don't want to give it a one-shot headshot kill potential in close quarters. Personally, I think that would be fine. Plenty of the DMRs in like Battlefield 3 could do that. And I don't know why they've strayed away from that concept in this game. But even so, having a 3-shot kill because you wing an arm or a leg just seems totally unfair with this weapon. And so if they could somehow make it a 2-shot kill regardless of what part of the body you shot in 44 meters or closer, that would go a long way into balancing out this weapon better. Getting a 3-shot kill with this gun is just shitty. Now, understanding your ranges with this gun is also really important. Pushing it beyond 44 meters in the damage department really isn't recommended, and if you think you're going to be engaging most people beyond that distance, you may as well pick a different medic rifle. There's plenty of other medic rifles that can 3-shot kill at pretty much any range, and so having a 6-round magazine and shitty recoil recovery for this gun isn't going to do you any favors at further ranges. So you're kind of limited to, I would say, like a 30 to 44 meter engagement range as like your optimal engagement range with this weapon, which is kind of restrictive. It's okay in a lot of situations, but it's not really going to be doing you a whole lot of favor. So I really think DICE could make a few tweaks to this weapon to improve its performance. It wouldn't have to go through a drastic overhaul in the way that it performs, but just better recoil recovery, eliminate the 3-shot potentials in close quarters, and maybe even a little bit faster reload or something like that, and you're going to have a much more effective rifle on your hands. Anyway, I feel like most of the potentially crappy guns in Battlefield 1 are just a few little tweaks away from actually being decent or fun to use weapons. It's really not that big of a change needed for most weapons that are borderline useful, and that's what this gun is in my opinion. Now also, I haven't really talked about the new map Rupture here, but this is the first time showing it on my channel. I think this is the third and final map that they'll be displaying on CTE. Verdun Heights is the 4th and final map of this DLC, which I'm not sure if we'll get to see during the CTE, but that's the one that's sort of on fire as you're progressing up a hillside. So looking forward to playing that map. I really do like this map a lot though. Visually speaking, it's not that interesting, and unfortunately there's a lot of fog that rolls in. Fog kind of drives me crazy in the Battlefield 1 maps because it just makes them look ugly and also makes the gameplay a little bit less interesting to me. But there's a lot of trenches in this map. Despite it being very open and seemingly vehicle oriented, there's a lot of good infantry cover, which is great. It's like DICE is learning. It's like they're making maps that can cater to both vehicle gameplay and infantry gameplay. It doesn't just have to be one or the other, especially when comparing this map to Soissons, which had just about no infantry cover at all. This one is like a godsend. You can always dive into a trench or behind a rock or something that actually resembles cover for a change. Also in the center of the map is a really cool bridge, which has some good opportunity for some fun infantry fighting on it, and also heavy explosives like the bomber can take out the center of the bridge, so that can come crumbling down mid-combat and provide a new obstruction for vehicles and infantry. Still no sign of the new elite class in this CTE. I have a feeling they're saving that one for the final launch, so we don't really know what that class is going to be capable of. But we're still in very much a balance and bug testing phase. That's what CTE is for, community test environment. And I hope DICE hears my feedback on this rifle. I'm not a huge fan of it now. I don't think it's very fun to play with, but I think just a few more small tweaks and it could actually be the skill-based weapon that I think they were trying to design. I see where they're going with the concept behind it. I like the idea. I just don't think it's quite there yet. Anyway, that wraps it up for my initial weapon review of the RSC 1917. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Stay tuned for more DLC coverage, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Level Cap signing off.